Alright guys, first impressions on Season of the Haunted. I put about 40 hours in since Tuesday, today is Saturday. There's a lot to go over. First of all, I would like to start out by saying, let's talk about Solar 3.0. I feel like a lot of the community is overreacting and will not give it a chance. It's not Void 3.0 by any means, but I've still personally been having a lot of fun with Solar 3.0. The amount of people that have come into my Twitch chat and in the YouTube comments saying that they don't like Solar 3.0, I genuinely don't really understand why that is. All three of the classes got a total Solar revamp with new abilities to use, I think the best of which is the Titan one. I've been having a ton of fun using that one. For Hunter, Blade Barrage has become super strong and is now the best damage super in the game, which was previously Tether, but now Hunter has two really good supers to use. And then for Warlocks, you can now Icarus Dash on Well. I don't know what more you could want other than the fact that now there's a aspect that allows your fusions to blow up twice. Fusions were already doing an obnoxious amount of damage and still are, but now you can throw two of them that explode twice for some really insane DPS. All the different fragments that you're allowed to equip with Solar 3.0 allow for a lot of room for different builds to be built. The one thing that I do not like and wish they wouldn't do was time gating some of the fragments to the public event thing. If you guys didn't see in the recent TWAB, Bungie said that unlocking the rest of the fragments is tied to doing the public event on the Leviathan. I'm not really sure how to feel about that because the activity itself, yes, it is free to play, but it doesn't feel much more than a reskin of the original Castellum. You're just walking around killing ads. But the only plus is you can finally get new weapons at the end. The new Scythe relic in the public event activity itself is kind of fun to use, but it can be kind of tedious to get it to spawn because you have to go out of your way to do it. Anyways, like I said, this activity can get kind of monotonous and boring. One way that I did find to make it a little bit better to grind is I've been using the mini bonk hammer build that I made a video on. I'll leave a link to that in the description if you're interested in checking that out. Okay, so now let's rewind to the more interesting part of the season, which is the story missions. The first few story missions that we got with this season were very action-packed and actually got me excited for what's to come. Being back on board the Leviathan not only is nostalgic for myself with all the Callus memes that we've done, but it is nice to see Callus back in the story in general so we can start tying things together to move towards Lightfall. The story is getting to a point where I feel like an important death is imminent, whether it's Ikora, Crow, Mara, or maybe Keitel. I don't really know who exactly it would be, but the events that are going to unfold, there has to be something that's going to build up to Lightfall and get players engaged. I don't think the internal battle with Crow not knowing what the hell is going on inside his own brain for the 5th season in a row is going to be enough to cut it. Either way, whatever happens, I think they're doing a really good job with the storytelling, and I'm excited to see what happens over the rest of the season. And towards the end of the season, we are finally getting an epilogue the week before this season ends, so maybe there will be another live event type of thing going on. We'll have to wait and see. With this season, we got some new exotics on the table too. We got one exotic for each class and two new exotic weapons. Well, one new and one returning one. As far as the class exotics go, the only experience I have so far is with the Warlock boots, and let me say, they are busted. If you get a kill with any fusion, whether it's a linear fusion or a fusion rifle, which includes Vex Mythoclast, it makes you Radiant, which gives you a damage bonus. On top of that, every time you dodge, you reload all your weapons. If you haven't had a chance to get these yet, I would highly suggest going to the Legend Lost sector and picking them up on Boots Day and giving them a shot before they get nerfed. As far as the other classes go, I have not had a chance to pick up the Hunter or the Titan boots quite yet, but as far as I've been told by people who do have them, that it doesn't really compare to the boots that the Warlocks got. Okay, so let's move on to what I think is the most important part of the season that isn't Solar 3.0, and that is the new dungeon, the Duality dungeon on the Leviathan. Off the rip, they spawn you in what was basically a slap in the face. For those not familiar, the starting area is the old Tribute Hall, which is a testing area that we used to have. You could spawn in different enemies, and you could test weapon builds with armor combos to see what perks are synergistic and what works best together for you. They ended up removing that, and Now that it's back in the game, it makes me want to believe that maybe they'll bring it back. I don't see any reason for them not to bring it back. I know there's supposed to be like a weapon testing thing on the Enclave, but that doesn't accurately reflect damage numbers off of everything that you test. Point is that I hope that they add it back soon because the area is literally in the game files and there's no reason for it to not be in the game. Moving on to the rest of the dungeon, I have really nothing to say but positive things. They finally added new mechanics, and let me say, this mechanic was something completely unique and something we have never seen before. It was kind of like an alternate universe mirror dimension type of thing where you have to figure out these puzzles and where you need to pull yourself and where you need to return yourself to the overworld. It was a genius idea and I hope they continue to build on that. The dungeon itself is pretty long as well, which is kind of cool to see. To me, it kind of felt more like a mini raid layer more than it did a dungeon, which was really nice. Overall, there are 3 boss encounters with 5 bosses total. There are 3 bosses in one encounter, and they all build off of that bell mechanic where you're pulling yourself into the nightmare world and pulling yourself out with the bell too. It's really awesome. The final boss is really cool, and I think the mechanics of it are actually really awesome as well. It requires you to be efficient and be able to read the boss in an efficient manner so that you can get good DPS phases. On top of having a stellar dungeon with awesome new mechanics that we get to enjoy, they killed it with the weapons and the other loot in this dungeon. I'm interested to know what everybody else thinks about how the armor looks. That's the one thing I don't really like from the loot, is I don't think the armor looks cool. But it's still having the option to transmog and have the artifice slot for that bonus artifact mod at the end is really cool. The weapons though, which are the most important part. These are some of the coolest weapons that we've ever gotten in the game. They shade extremely well, just look badass. And there's a random drop exotic from the dungeon, which is something we've never seen before either. And the even cooler part about this exotic is you can get increased drop chances for it if you do triumphs from the seal, like doing the dungeon solo. I think this is a great way to incentivize players to step up their solo game in terms of learning how to play by themselves and not always having to depend on their teammates, and for a variety of other reasons that could be its own separate video at some point. As if this whole thing couldn't get any better, they added something on top of that just is the cherry on top for me. This is something that I've been waiting for years in this game, something that they have never done before, and is a great way to encourage players to be able to play they want to play. So previously how it has worked is that if a dungeon comes out, let's just say you have one character. You do the first run on that character, you get an SMG and a pair of boots. Let's just say theoretically that that's it. If the dungeon is farmable and you go back and do it again before the next weekly reset, on repeat clears, you will only get the SMG and boots. But that is not the case this time. You are continually able to repeat the dungeon and earn any new loot that you haven't gotten without having to wait for the Tuesday reset. So if there's a particular gun that you are chasing within the dungeon on the first week, you can sit and grind until you get it. You are not time locked to being able to do it whenever you get it to drop one time and then are able to repeat it. I'm really happy to see this system implemented into the game, and I hope at some point that they continue to add this into raids as it encourages players to be able to chase whatever drop they want on the first week. So let me give you an example. Let's just say I'm chasing a hand cannon out of the new raid and I don't get it on the first week, and that's all I want from the raid. I just have to wait until next week. There's no reason for me to play the raid. And now being able to do it this way is going to encourage players to play however they want to play, which is the thing that they always talk about. Most of the weapons overall within this dungeon are worth your time farming for one role or another. I don't have a list on what the god roles are quite yet. I'm still kind of learning that since the perks weren't in the database right away. But I would highly encourage you to jump in and check out the new dungeon. It's an awesome experience and fun to play with your friends. As far as initial thoughts go, that's really about all I have right now. I'll probably make an end of the season thoughts vid too. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know what you guys think about the season down in the comments. Like the video, subscribe, and we'll see you guys next time. Thanks for watching.